Pat Ryan will be appointed as Cork Senior Hurling Manager this evening at a meeting of the County Committee. The winner of back-to-back under-20 All-Irelands with Cork is the man chosen to replace Kieran Kingston, whose second term came to an end on Sunday. But negativity has been the watchword from Kingston's selectors since, with both Diarmuid O'Sullivan and Pat Mulcahy speaking out over the course of the last 24 hours. Looking at the Cork landscape in a week again where Cork wants to take away the limelight after two All-Ireland semi-finals is the Sunday Times' Denis Walsh. Dennis, you're very welcome back to the show as ever.
Thanks, Richie.
It'd be nice to talk to you with some air of positivity around Cork for once. It seems we only have you on when there's an air of, I don't know, civil war or somebody sniping at somebody else that we seem to speak and catch up on matters Cork. But unfortunately, that's been the way of things over the course of the last 48 hours, I suppose, since Kieran stepped down.
Obviously, look, I mean, this is a really positive appointment. And Pat Ryan would have been involved with Kieran back in 2016 and 2017. He was involved with Kieran Kingston then, and when Kieran Kingston stood down at the end of 2017, Richie, the Cork players really wanted Pat Ryan to take it, and at the time it just wasn't the right time for Pat, and he stepped away, and as you say, he had a great success with the Cork under-20s, and he would have been locally seen as the best possible replacement for Kieran Kingston. But nobody really knew whether he was prepared to take it or not. So that really is a very good news story for Cork hurling, that Pat has found the time and has found that he was in a position to say yes.
What struck me yesterday evening when the email landed in my inbox was the swiftness of it all. It's very rare in GAA terms to see somebody stepping away on the Sunday and by the Monday you have the named successor who's going to be ratified now tonight. Sure. That is a very swift process by anybody's standards. Yeah,
so basically what Cork have been trying to do since Kevin Donovan came in as the Secretary, Chief Executive, I'm not sure exactly what his title is these days, but in that role as Frank Murphy's successor, he's been trying to create a kind of a succession ladder for Cork teams from under 15 up. So I think the kind of current structure is you get involved with a Cork under 15 team, you take them up for 16, 17. 17 is now into county minor. So you have a team for those 3 years, and you're in the system, for want of a better word. But you're kind of you're with Cork, you're with young Cork players, you're developing as a coach as you're going along. So, for example, Sean O'Halpine and Kieran Fraggy Murphy, two former Cork players, are involved with an under-15 squad this year. So they're going to go through and take over the minors in a couple of years. So Pat Ryan had been around the system for years. I mean, with the Cork 20s, with the Cork seniors, he was trusted, he was respected by all stakeholders here, players, county board, the whole lot. So he's a guy that's been, Cork don't want to be going out with a blank page, Richie, every couple of years, and where are we starting, where are we looking? Even guys that were working with Kieran last year, a guy like Noel Furlong, or the year just gone, Noel Furlong had led the Cork minors to an All-Ireland. So, Noel had, he had proved his credentials, proved his potential as a young coach, been given a chance with the seniors, and there's no doubt that Noel will be back with a different team, and he'll be in the system because he's a talented young coach, and that's what Cork are trying to establish, that kind of a throughput of talented coaches who know the players and have the players' respect.
Is that greeted positively among the clubs? Because obviously the clubs are used to having a say both in I suppose in any county that you want to pick out, that you'll see the nominees for the position and then we'll go to a vote and they'll decide the best successor from that point. Taking it out of their hands, has that caused any rancour?
No, and I mean that hasn't really been the case in Cork for a while. So what would have happened in Cork in recent years, I mean, even going back to I'm trying to think back now how far back, but I would say even going back maybe as far as even as far as Donald O'Grady. So like what would have happened going back the years would be that a small committee would have been put in place, which he voted on by the delegates, and then that small committee goes off and finds somebody. So it was the actual, the kind of process that you describe, I know it does go on in some counties still, or maybe lots of counties still, where clubs have the opportunity to nominate somebody and it's a bit of a free-for-all. But Cork haven't really had that system now for a while, and I mean that system is unwieldy and it's not at all efficient, and you're unlikely a lot of the time to come up with the best candidate, I think, in that system. I think the system that Cork are trying to develop is a good system, and that there are people who are, as I say, who are in the system and who know the lay of the land, and that the players get to know and respect.
There's an element to taking the bull by the horns and just saying this is the way it is and this is how it's going to be for the next 3 years, and we'll move on. And clearly Pat has a track record with a number of the squad, and then can bring through elements from his under-20s from the last couple of years too.
Yeah, absolutely. And Pat is a guy who would know the Cork scene inside out. I mean, he's incredibly loyal to his club stars. Would have given them unbelievable service as a player and as a coach. I mean, Pat would be, over the years, would have trained any not just senior teams and stars. He would have trained all kinds of teams. But Pat would know the Cork scene inside out. Usually respected guy, usually liked guy, a guy that everyone would immediately would accept. Knows his stuff, knows the modern game inside out, knows the kind of hurling that Cork people would love to see from their team. And look, everybody has had to adapt. I mean, you can look at Kilkenny at the moment. They're playing so different to any other Cody team ever. But so everybody's had to adapt to the modern game and to all the metrics that are applied now to performance in hurling. So, Pat wouldn't be blind to any of that. But he would definitely have an innate sense of what Cork supporters would love to see in a Cork team. There's no doubt he'd have an appreciation of that. But he also knows that, like everybody else, Richie, Cork supporters, what they love most is winning. And there would have been a certain resistance to the way Cork played under Donald O'Grady back in 2003 until that started delivering All Irelands, and there was less resistance then. So look, it's a big challenge. There's no doubt about that. But Pat would know exactly what's there to work with.
What kind of surgery is required on the senior squad as it is at the moment?
Well, I mean, so the under-20s that would have won the All Irelands with Pat and the under-21s, they're going to be starting. I mean, 3 or 4 of them have already come through. So Kieran Joyce had an incredible year at centre back, a guy that could have played on 20 for Cork again this year. He's so young. Shane Barrett has come through from those teams. Alan Connolly's come through from those teams. There are 3 guys that Pat would have worked with already. But there's other guys who in the next year or two need to step up and will be given the chance, no doubt, to step up. There's going to be a certain amount of churn on the panel, I suspect, in the close season. Just guys coming to 1 or 2 guys coming to a natural end. They've been around an awful long time, giving incredible service. So look, that happens in every squad every year. So, but Pat will know exactly what's there. I mean, I imagine one of the reasons why Cork were happy to do this quickly is, like everywhere else, the Cork Championship will be starting in the next couple of weeks. So the Cork Championship now is a really intensive round robin structure over a period of a couple of months. So there'll be a world of matches, and so there'll be a chance for guys to put their hands up, no doubt. But I think it's a great appointment. It's an exciting appointment, and here's a guy that's definitely going to bring a lot of optimism to Cork over the next while.
Do we know who he's going to have installed as part of his backroom team yet?
No, nothing has been announced yet. I mean, he's worked very closely with Wayne Sherlock on the Cork 20s teams in recent years. Wayne Sherlock, a former great Cork player from the early 2000s and late 90s, and Blackrock club, and he would have worked with Pat. And I think nobody would be surprised if Wayne Sherlock was part of Pat's management team. So we'll just have to wait and see on that, Richie. But there'll be no shortage of guys, I suspect, who'll be happy to work with Pat. That's for sure.
Yeah, looking back on this year, it's like once Cork aren't in an All Ireland semi-final, you kind of tend to look back and think that perhaps the year wasn't favourable. But getting to a league, getting to the sharp end of the league, the Munster Championship can be a bit rocky for anybody who doesn't necessarily win all 4 or 5 games. But then again, Cork won 2 of them, picked up a couple of good wins along the way as well. There is a sense that we can over scrutinise teams and think that once they're not being successful, then that's regarded as failure. But sometimes teams are where they are, and I always get that sense. Well, I did get that sense with Cork this year, is that maybe, and probably the All Ireland final last year proved that, maybe they aren't potential All Ireland winners at the moment, but neither are they also rans. They're just a fairly serviceable team at the moment, and that kind of just has to be the way of things until they do make that next step, perhaps under Ryan.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, and there's such a high bar. I mean, we don't always have great All Ireland champions in either football or hurling. At the moment, there was a great team setting the bar, as there was for many years with Brian Cody and Kilkenny. So it's a really high bar for any team to reach. Cork have struggled with Limerick, obviously, in the last couple of years. They didn't before that. Funnily enough, back to 2019, they beat Limerick in the championship. 2018 drew with them. So, but it's the last couple of years they have struggled with Limerick, struggled with the power, struggled with the aggression, perhaps, and so on. Struggled to impose what they wanted to do on Limerick. I mean, Limerick are terrific at imposing themselves and their plan on other teams. So, look, there's youth scope there for improvement, for sure. Like, I think the league final this year, Richie, was a shock that Cork weren't expecting. I think, especially if you think back, like Waterford were short Austin Gleeson that night and Jamie Byrne. I think that was a game that Cork did expect to win, and like they were well beaten on the night. And then to have your next game, Limerick, Limerick, who had basically taken a pass on the league and were only focusing on one date really as their opening night in Cork. So to have those two games back to back was a really tough ask. I think any Cork supporter would say that the game below in Walsh Park when they beat Waterford on the day when everyone thought, most people thought that they'd be out of the championship, that performance just showed what this group, has potential, has real potential, and not just for lovely, flamboyant, flashy, exuberant hurling, but to be able to, get into a fight and, come out with a result. So there was something in that, no doubt about it. I mean, what happened in the first quarter of an hour against Galway, Richie, that was the game. That was the winning and losing of that game. I mean, the stuff that they missed that day, crazy stuff. But you saw as well last Sunday or last weekend, Richie, like the amount of shooting. I mean, shooting and hurling has gone through the roof in terms of the numbers. So it's all about now efficiency, and it's all about trying to minimise the crazy shots and the pot shots. And Cork that day didn't do that, and you pay a price, as Clare did on Saturday and as Galway did in the first quarter on Sunday. So I don't think anybody in Cork is under any illusions about how far Cork have to go, but equally there is definitely a degree of optimism that there was a squad there that can compete.
Are you surprised with the level of criticism coming back from the likes of Pat Mulcahy and Dermot O'Sullivan over the course of the last 24 hours? I mean, that interview with the Echo, Pat Mulcahy was very strong in his criticism about people within Cork not supporting the team enough if they're in, say, a punditry position. Then you have The Rock tweeting to say, scrutinised to the extreme by those who wore red, stood in the line as red so they can remain relevant through various media outlets when they walk the walk, etc. Like, it's obviously two members of Kingston's backroom team who now find themselves not involved with the team, but clearly to a degree there is a sense that negativity must have found its way into the dressing room if Mulcahy and O'Sullivan are having to address it in such stark terms.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was surprised to see those comments from Pat Mulcahy and from Dermot O'Sullivan. I suppose it's funny, Richie. We keep hearing from players and managers. Well, not so much from players anymore because they hardly talk to us. But we're doing our own thing. We're not listening to the outside noise. Blah blah blah. I mean, they're all human. Outside noise does get in. There's no doubt about that. And I mean, Kieran Kingston would have remarked after the Clare match how much we'll say the post Limerick criticism had damaged the player, or had not damage is the wrong word, but had undermined the players maybe after the Limerick game, but between the Limerick game and the Clare game, that that their confidence had taken a hit, not just from the performances, but from the reaction to performances. But in a place like Cork, Richie, where there's such passion for the GA teams, there's such a huge following for the hurling team. It's funny, Richie. Like 30 odd years ago, when I started off in newspapers, there was no social media, and the kind of stuff that might appear in the paper would occasionally be seen as being over the top, or and then social media came along and people realised that what was written in newspapers all those years ago was nothing compared to what was being said, or to what appears in social media and various other places. But look, like if there's former every media outlet, Richie, including News Talk and everybody else, looks to former players for expertise and for insight and for a perspective from inside the white lines. So when you have that all over the media, not everyone's going to be happy with things that are said, and clearly in this case there was nerves struck somewhere along the line. I couldn't tell exactly who said what, Richie.
Yeah, I wouldn't ask you to name names either. Like that's you don't want to get into a kind of a Mexican standoff with these kind of things. But like similarly, like looking around, I did like a bit of rooting and kind of seeing what was said here and there in and around the Limerick defeat, etc. Like there's criticism, yeah, but there was nothing that seemed over the top. There was nothing that seemed vicious in any way, you know, that kind of way. And and that's what kind of struck me about the strength of Mulcahy's and O'Sullivan's comments, was that like everyone's entitled to their opinion, like, and obviously criticism and social media have a part to play in all that, but there was nothing that stood out as being particularly like OTT and personal or anything like that, which is why I kind of was surprised, and I think many people might have been surprised by the strength of those comments yesterday.
Yeah, and look, as you say, Richie, I mean, people are entitled to their opinion, but I think what will get under the skin of a management team, and maybe this is what will go under the skin of the Cork management team, would be ill-informed opinion, or opinion where there wasn't due diligence or research, or where it would be, you know, not that, you know, with no reference to the data. I mean, all these teams now. I mean, the performance data now, Richie, is so detailed that. You know, people, you know, all these lads who are analysing players' performances, and the players themselves who are analysing their own performances and are having their performance. It's so tied to the data and so tied to what targets they were hoping to meet. So there's all that stuff going on a different level to maybe some of the commentary, and maybe some of the commentary is just superficial along the way, and maybe that's what kind of caught them. I saw one reference in the Pat Mulcahy quotes to a commentator who he didn't name, had been following the game on social media on a plane, he said, and then went ahead and spoke about it, even though he hadn't seen it. That was what he said in his comments. Now that's not right. I mean, that clearly is not right. If that went on, and he didn't name who it was, and I don't know who it was, but I'd say, Richie, people who are involved with teams, if they listen to a lot of commentary, they will hear a lot of commentary, I suspect, that just reflects a lack of research or a lack of due diligence or just not doing the legwork. And that's the kind of stuff that I suspect would really annoy any management team.
The funny thing is, we've actually got Dermot O'Sullivan on OTB AM tomorrow morning, so we'll be able to get a little bit more insight from him as regards what it was that really essentially got under his skin. But it is a 3-year term for Pat Ryan. You would hope that there is... I don't want to accuse the two lads of being thin-skinned, but you do need, if you're going into inter-county management, no matter who you are at this stage, you need a mightily thick skin, or just to be able to switch off completely from that kind of stuff.
Oh, Richie, switching off is the thing. No doubt about that. No question about it. I mean, what value is there in it? What value is there in it from... I mean, when they say that there isn't outside noise, I really hope they don't, because there is just no value in it. I mean, what is the point? What is the point? Like, I remember working years ago with Donnacha O'Callaghan on his book, and he showed me a printout of his performance data from the analyst, and this was 12 years ago. So I was absolutely blown away by the level of detail and the things they were looking for and the things that he was supposed to be doing, and that either he was or he wasn't. And I remember thinking, there's no way any analysis of that match in the media would have come close to the kind of analysis that Donnacha had been exposed to for his performance. And I've no doubt that I mean, there was terrific analysis going on now in various places. I was watching the Sunday game on Sunday night, and I thought Donald did some terrific stuff on the games on the big screen. But that's not universal, Richie, and for the people who are involved with teams who need to get really down into the weeds of performances and performance analysis, what are they to gain from listening to outside noise? Nothing.
And it becomes a vicious circle as well, because everything is so instant. Like a tweet is obviously 140 characters or whatever it is, and people will pick up the most sensational of those. And similarly, punditry, be it on radio or TV, like you're talking about working within ads and within a 10-15 minute framework if it's half time, full time. So you've got 6-7 minute bursts. So you're only really doing surface stuff there. So the kind of surface stuff and the nastier stuff can take hold better than any kind of deep analysis would ever do, because there's no room for the deep analysis, and like we'd be hemmed in by the same stuff ourselves, you know.
Sure, no, absolutely. I mean, I'm not on social media myself, Richie, and I don't miss it. And I know there's loads of good stuff on it, but equally you kind of have to take the good with the bad, I believe, if you're going to be on social media. So,
oh boy, do you?
And so look, that's the trade-off there. So, but honestly, for people who are involved in teams and so immersed in it, they know the picture. Like, they have the picture. They have a clearer picture than anybody outside looking in. So they know exactly what targets they're trying to hit, what things they're trying to do, and they know exactly whether it happened or not. So, and if you're explaining, you're losing. So, like, they can't come, these post-match soundbites, they're not going to be, throwing data at you, trying to explain what the hell happened out in the pitch. People will make up their own minds, and people will listen or they won't listen, but the guys who are trying to get performances need to go through a pretty rigorous process to get there, and that wouldn't always be reflected in the commentary.
Yeah, and the track record, I guess, of Pat Ryan over the last 4 or 5 years would suggest that rigorous process is going to continue on with Cork. And like the watchword that came in on it was negativity, but it seems to be a very positive atmosphere that he's going to bring to the camp, and the fact that he's got this track record behind him, and there are the raw materials there for Cork, and there always will be, because Cork is Cork, to get competing at the top level pretty soon.
Well, Richie, Cork is Cork has been poisoned for that phrase has been there for as long as I'm around, and like, it just doesn't cut anything, doesn't cut any ice whatsoever. I mean, they spent a long time, trusting in voodoo and old systems, and we'll be all right. They'll come through from here, there, and everywhere, and they weren't coming through from anywhere. And it wasn't until they got down and put a bloody good process in place for developing underage talent that they even got to the start line. So we'll say Cork would have been a good few years behind Limerick in terms of doing the right thing with development squads. For the last 6-7 years, maybe a bit more, that right thing has been done. But that right thing only gets it to the start line. Yeah. And Cork now have we'll say Shane Kingston's generation would have come through a development system that was really good, but they were the first crowd, really. And so it's going to take it won't happen just with one wave of talent, or maybe two waves of talent. Last year's minor team were exceptional, but minor now is under 17, so those guys are going to take a while. But Pat Ryan would, honestly, Richie, in terms of his feel for the game, in terms of his personality, in terms of his ability to get a team playing, like, he would have all the attributes for this job, and he would know exactly how big the challenge is, and he would know exactly what he has to work with, and he knows what he's taken on here. And I hope, like any Cork manager or like any intercounty manager, Richie, I hope people appreciate what these guys are prepared to do, and as a complete amateur, there's no two ways about it.
Dennis, absolute pleasure as always.